What's going on, guys? This is your channel TFD coming back with a major story. And for this one, we're heading all the way up to New York because the WNBA has finally released some real data breaking down Caitlin Clark's injury and the massive wave of injuries that hit the entire league during the 2025 season. Now look, I've done videos on this before. I've talked about how wild this season was when it came to injuries. But every time new information comes out, it gets more unbelievable. According to what the WNBA is reporting, we had around 151 players in the league this season, and 91 of them were affected by some type of injury. Let that sink in. That is over 70% of the league dealing with injuries at some point during the season. I don't care what league you're talking about, NBA, WNBA, G League, college ball, 70% injury rate does not look good. That screams structural issues, conditioning issues, scheduling issues, travel issues, just something fundamentally wrong. But here's what's even crazier. Nobody at the top seems to be speaking on it. Kathy Engelbert, silent. The refs, silent. The league office, barely saying anything. And speaking of Kathy Engelbert, I've been seeing the headlines. Everybody's acting like this is brand new news. But you guys know, we talked about this months ago. I told you all that once the new CBA negotiations wrapped up, Kathy Engelbert was more than likely going to be relieved of her duties. I didn't say fired, because that's not how they're going to frame it. They'll say moving on, transitioning, stepping aside, whatever corporate language they choose. But from what I've heard, allegedly, her departure is actually part of the CBA proposal itself. The players want new leadership, a new commissioner, and that's supposedly written right into the agreement they're negotiating. And honestly, I believe that. The league has already been interviewing potential replacements behind the scenes. Not officially, but unofficially, those conversations have been happening. I think they already know who they want next. So, yeah, in my opinion, once the CBA gets finalized, Kathy Engelbert is getting the boot. It is what it is. But let's shift gears back to what the WNBA is talking about, and that's these injuries. They put out an article breaking down everything, and of course, the biggest name affected was Caitlin Clark. She wasn't just another player who got hurt. She was the player, the face of the league, the engine of the league. And her injury didn't just affect the Fever or the WNBA standings. It affected the entire genre of women's basketball content. Let's keep it 100. If Caitlin Clark doesn't get hurt, the WNBA offseason right now would be booming. She would have kept dropping logo threes. She'd be doing media runs, brand deals, appearances. The momentum would have carried straight through. Instead, the offseason is dead. The entire genre feels silent. And honestly, I'll take it a step further. Caitlin Clark getting hurt affected all of basketball content, including the NBA. Look around YouTube right now. NBA views are down, WNBA content is down, college ball content is down. Nobody is buzzing the way they were last year when the Clark effect was hitting every algorithm on every platform. Caitlin Clark's stardom is that big. She moves numbers in a way nobody else in basketball right now can. And losing her for the majority of the 2025 season didn't just impact the Fever, it impacted the entire basketball ecosystem. So now the WNBA is finally putting numbers behind what we all saw. An unprecedented injury crisis, a commissioner under pressure, and the league's biggest superstar sidelined at the worst possible time. And trust me, this story is only getting started.
Now, this article that just came out, The Next Hoops Powered by Next, breaks down everything. It basically asks the big question, what does the data actually say about injuries and the schedule? They go into the different ways the current WNBA schedule has contributed to these injuries and how things could either improve or get even worse moving forward, depending on what changes the league makes. Now, I told y'all months ago when I did that video, I knew the referees played a big part in all these injuries. And honestly, at this point, There's no maybe, no if, none of that. The refs absolutely played a role. The way they let players get hacked, the missed calls, the physical play they allowed to go on, it all added up. You can't have that many no calls and that much contact without somebody getting hurt. So yeah, I'm standing on it. The referees definitely contributed to a lot of these injuries this season.
This article right here stated the WNBA schedule has long been a topic of discussion, and in the 2025 season, that discussion has only grown. The 2025 season, the longest in WNBA history, was rife with injuries and scheduling whiplash. Pair that with the ongoing collective bargaining agreement, CBA, negotiations between the league and the WNBA, and you have an opportunity to go back to the drawing board and get creative. Player health is a rare topic that players and the league should have a common interest in addressing, as injuries are particularly detrimental in such a star-centric league during a period of pivotal growth. That's where Caitlin comes in, man. Caitlin Clark getting hurt didn't just slow down the W, it derailed the entire momentum. It didn't only hurt the growth of the league, it might have even hurt the CBA negotiations. Before her injury, the women had the ball in their court. Ratings were up, attendance was up, the conversation around the league was at an all-time high. But I'm telling you right now, with Caitlin Clark sidelined, that leverage is gone. They don't have that same power anymore because the superstar driving all that growth isn't on the floor. Now, it's saying a condensed, irregular schedule worsens fatigue and increases injury risk. As documented, the 2025 season yielded historically high injury totals and injury rates that continued to trend upward. Recent changes, including an odd number of teams in 2025 and a longer postseason, have further complicated the schedule-making process. The 2025 season yielded historically high injury totals and injury rates that continue to trend upward. Recent changes, including an odd number of teams in 2025 and a longer postseason, have further complicated the schedule-making process. As negotiations wage on and any 2026 schedule remains on hold, let's dive into...
It says everyone's favorite topic to point to when discussing injuries. Back-to-backs have become a more frequent occurrence in recent seasons. After slowly winding down in the schedule around 2016 when there were just 16 back-to-backs, the second games of back-to-backs have made up 4.2% of all regular season games for the average team since 2023. But only 3.3% of in-season injuries have occurred during the second game of a back-to-back. Now that brings me to this point right here. The report says only 19 out of 582 total injuries were even connected to back-to-back games. So all this noise, all these complaints from players about back-to-backs being the reason for injuries, guess what? The data says otherwise. It's not hurting you. It's not affecting you. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The numbers are the numbers. So at the end of the day, y'all just gotta deal with it. You don't want to play back-to-back games? I hear you. But I'm here to tell you, NBA players play back-to-backs too, and they deal with it because it's part of the job. And according to the data, these back-to-backs ain't what's causing injuries in the W. So that excuse, it's out the window. The numbers straight up show players are not getting hurt because of back-to-back games.
Now, moving forward, another possible explanation for some of this gap is load management. As will be discussed later, the current WNBA rules, for various reasons, impede effective load management. Still, it is possible teams have been targeting back-to-backs as an exception. Now moving forward, according to the whole article, what they said, in the end, the data makes one thing clear. The injury patterns in the WNBA are shaped less by back-to-backs and more by the overall structure of the calendar itself. The early part of the season naturally carries higher risk because players are ramping up from limited preseason action into full game intensity. With the WNBA's short preseason and the reality that many athletes arrive carrying lingering injuries from overseas play, the spike in May injuries isn't surprising, and even the numbers might underestimate how much year-round basketball wears players down. But the real concern emerges when we look ahead. As the league continues to grow and expands the schedule, the question becomes whether the players' bodies will be given the time they need to truly recover. Muscles and connective tissues may heal enough for an athlete to return, but without adequate recovery windows, the repaired tissue remains fragile and vulnerable to re-injury. Add in the accumulation of microdamage from a dense season, and the risks only rise. If the WNBA pushes for longer seasons without expanding rest and recovery time, the league could face an even more serious injury crisis. Protecting player health must be the priority moving forward.
Now look, I say a lot of things on this channel, but one thing I don't believe, at least not definitively, is that load management is the main cause of all these injuries. I'm not buying that. What is causing these injuries, in my opinion, is the way WNBA referees are officiating these games. They're letting these ladies play like it's a UFC bout. They're swallowing the whistle, missing obvious calls, and allowing way too much physical contact. At some point, you've got to point the finger at the refs. And here's the crazy part. I made a video earlier this year breaking this down, and right after the season ended, the WNBA actually put out a statement saying they were not going to investigate whether the officials played a role in players getting hurt. Yes, you heard that right. They basically said they weren't even going to look into the possibility that their referees were contributing to injuries by not making the right calls. That's wild. And we could go down a long list of moments where players, especially Caitlin Clark, got hit hard, bumped, shoved, undercut, or flat out targeted, and no whistle was blown. Those should have been fouls. Those were fouls, but they were ignored. Whether intentional or not, the result is the same. Players are getting hurt because referees are not controlling the game the way they should. At some point, you've got to call it what it is. This is YMCA-level officiating in a professional league, and it's unacceptable. But that's just my take. I want to hear yours down in the comments section. Let me know what you think. Hit the bell, stay locked in. I'll be back with another one.